Well, well, well. Welcome back, everybody, to the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast, the show where those two guys that have, maybe feelings for one another talk about MMA. Um, anyways, Dominic, the man on my right, we, less than 24 hours ago, were in the great state of Ohio for one UFC Columbus. Yep, the shirt rocking. I love that shirt. I wish they made it for guys my size, but headlined by Chris Daukaus and Curtis Blaydes. Dominic, I mean, it was our first time at a UFC event since 2016 for UFC 203.
Oh,
5.5 years, way too long. I would be very upset if it takes me another 5.5 years to
oh,
go to a UFC event. I
oh,
guess off the top, I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there that we are in the middle of creating a vlog
yes.
for our trip. Dominic has been working really hard on the editing side of that. Me and him both recorded a lot of footage while we were on our way, while in the arena, and then
hmm
on our way out and everything. So we tried to get as much as we could, just tried to, put you guys in like our shoes in the lead up to the event, kind of
Yeah.
what was going through our head, and ultimately some of our immediate thoughts in the aftermath and whatnot. That will be coming out Friday, right, Dom?
Yep. Yeah. No episode this Friday because there's no fights, but we got the vlog coming.
Yeah, so the vlog will be coming. But we're going to save, I guess, maybe some of our, thoughts on the event for that. But Dominic, just before we get into it, if you want to give a little piece about how you felt about being in Columbus for UFC Fight Night.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I had never been to Nationwide Arena there in Columbus. They have this kind of arena district, quote unquote. They have very nice area, plenty of restaurants, plenty of bars, real nice atmosphere. And the best part, man, is simply just the group that we had. Old friends, new friends. My dad was able to participate, and it was cool having everybody together for. I mean, it was a 12-hour day, essentially of just being with one another, watching the fights, having a blast, drinks, food, the VIP event, the hospitality, the customer service was top tier, top notch. We got to meet great fighters. Again, we might touch on it here a little, but definitely going to be in the vlog. But it was just top to bottom, such a perfect night. Wouldn't change anything about it. Great trip, great fights, and like you said, if we have to wait another 5.5 years, I'm going to be crying.
Yeah, the value of our tickets were $400. Just, and there's a point to this, not throwing around how much
Right,
money
we're
we
being
buy on tickets.
transparent. Yeah,
But they were VIP, and we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what this hospitality event. They're very, to be honest, they're pretty. They don't really reveal much about what you get.
like in specifics.
Yes, and I would argue that they probably should be put a little more out there, just because I think it would convince more people to do it.
hmm
And basically, guys, I mean, I'm not gonna say maybe not every. I'll put this as a disclaimer. I'm not sure if every VIP event is like this, but we were at the pub in Nationwide Arena. Unlimited food, drink, beer,
Yeah.
mixed drinks, anything you could think of from 3 o'clock to 7 p.m.
Yep.
So basically, before the main card started, you had like unlimited access to all this. So the ticket that we had, the seat, if we would have got it without all the VIP, was worth around $80.
hmm
So basically, you had to make up that $320 in other value.
Right.
We had an entrance specifically for us, so we got right in.
Yep.
Didn't have to wait in these long lines with everybody else. We had all that at the hospitality event. We got to meet Stipe Miocic.
I do.
I Dominic literally threw it out there to me as like kind of a joke, but like
Yeah.
maybe hopeful. He's like,
Yeah.
"What if we meet Stipe? He's from Ohio." And
Right.
I shot Dom down. I was
Yeah.
like, "No way,"
Yeah.
because I just they acted like you could meet fighters,
hmm
but it didn't. Again, I would have figured for something like this he would be promoted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, not to mention Cody Garbrandt, former UFC bantamweight champion, also there. And
Second
AJ
time.
Dobson, yeah, yep, second time meeting him. And AJ Dobson,
Yep.
who's he's 0-1 in the UFC, but a guy who I think has some potential from Ohio.
Yep.
Was on the Contender Series. So, I mean, to me, it was well worth the price, and I would
Yes.
do it again if Nationwide Arena would make slightly bigger seats for that section. But ultimately, it was completely worth it.
Yes.
Such a great time. I was wondering if UFC 203 was an unbelievable atmosphere and it was a
Yeah.
pay per view. So we really went big for our first time. So I was wondering if this would kind of pale in comparison, but I think it lived completely up to it.
Oh yeah, worth every penny, man. It was.
So let's get into that main event of UFC Columbus. Curtis Blaydes doesn't attempt a single takedown and gets the TKO win over Chris Daukaus 17 seconds into round two. So, Dominic, Curtis Blaydes, we said this might have been his last chance and that he really needed to show us something here. Well, was this the performance you were looking for out of Curtis Blaydes? And ultimately, how much, if so, I guess, how much did this performance really improve his stock for the future, you think, with the company?
I think it was a big one. I think he needed this. We were saying, or I know I said that if he lost, this could definitely, he's out of the title picture.
I said he might be cut.
Yeah, you took it a step further. So he came out here. He proved a lot of people wrong. I didn't really know how this fight was going to go, but I didn't expect this. I didn't. Curtis has shown, like in the Derek Lewis fight, he was striking with him, but then he went for the takedown, got knocked out. But then against Rosenstruik, he went back to just wrestling again. Maybe I don't know, he didn't want to strike at all with him. So then he comes in here and he kind of implements the game plan he had in round one against Lewis, where he was striking back and forth with Daukaus. And he had good shots in the first round too. So he honestly, to me, just shows that he's working on that striking because he knows the grappling's there. And especially at heavyweight, when you don't have to be some ace, he is so far ahead. I mean, 62 takedowns, he's like far above the second place person for heavyweight takedowns. So now that his striking, it looks like it's starting to catch up, man. I mean, he looks crisp and clean. The power's there. This is big time for Curtis Blaydes. Still only 31 years old. He's won 2 in a row. No, it's crazy, but he could be in the circumstance again where he is at one more fight, and if he can win, he can get to the title, but can he win it? Because when he's been there before, he still hasn't gotten it done. But this version we're seeing of Curtis Blaydes, he might be able to get there.
I loved this performance from Curtis Blaydes. He's been called just a wrestler for a long time, been called boring. He's even kind of doubled down at times. Like, I remember when he had that really boring but dominant win over Aleksandar Volkov. He sort of leaned into being kind of almost like in a heelish way.
Yep.
When fans, came after him about the performance, he kind of said, I'm going to do that. He's like, I'll do that for 25 minutes. I don't care if you like it or not.
Yeah.
But I guess that maybe that wasn't completely true because didn't you see here, like, he kind of wanted to prove a point.
And
he said, what can you say now? He said, I did that.
Yep.
They were expecting a takedown, and I went through hands.
Yeah, against a great boxer.
And and everybody knows that if he really wanted to, he probably still could have got that fight to the ground and won the fight that way. So it was a statement win for sure at the expense of Chris Daukaus. And I guess I have a hard time, though, being able to also say, while wanting to shed a lot of praise here for Blaydes, I also have to admit that I still don't know how much ground he's made up with the company or ultimately the title picture, because right now heavyweight's in a good place, but I guess that also means that it's at Curtis Blaydes' expense potentially, because there's about 6 guys in the mix, not including the champion Ngannou. You got Ciryl Gane, you have Stipe, you have Tom Aspinall, Tai Tuivasa, Curtis Blaydes now in here. John Jones is still lingering around. What a loaded title picture this is at this point. I mean, we just talked a week ago about Tom Aspinall, Tai Tuivasa being a potential interim title fight, and they're 2 of the lesser names of those guys we just mentioned. 2 of the least experienced, maybe is the better way to put it. So I don't think he called for a title shot. Don't think he's going to get it. He called for an interim title shot against Ciryl Gane.
Yeah.
Interesting call out. I would love to see that fight. Actually, I think that might be the next matchup he gets is Ciryl Gane.
I think so too. Yeah.
In a 5-round main event. I think that'd be fantastic. Really have to test Ciryl Gane's wrestling defense. But I don't think it'll be for a title. Do you disagree, or are you on the same page?
That's a good question, man. There's so much up in the air that I don't know. Like, because it seems like the front runner for an interim title, if you think in the company's mind, would probably be Stipe and John. Like as their front runner, if we can do one, that's the one, right?
Yeah,
But
if they could, no, money aside,
yes.
that would be who they'd pick.
But if that, like, say John doesn't come back, or I don't know, let's say that doesn't happen, then you've got a mixture of people. You could do Gon Tuivasa, Gon Aspinall, Tuivasa Aspinall, Curtis Blaydes versus either three of those guys. Like, there's so many combinations. It's like those math problems back in the day where it's like, how many combinations can you do with these oranges, apples, and bananas? That's what it feels like right now for that interim title, because it is going to happen this year. There's no doubt in my mind that they're going to implement it because of the surgery that Ngannou's going through. I do think Blaydes and Gon make sense. I think that should be next. I can't go out and say it'll be for the interim title. Yes or no? I can't. I don't know.
To me, I would say no. I'm pretty firm. And this is not that I don't think it wouldn't be worthy of that placement. It's just I look at, and I could be underestimating how the UFC might view. I mean, they made Curtis Blaydes feel like a pretty big deal here in the main event, in the arena.
Yes.
But I also think that's kind of their job. But I think in terms of the people making these decisions, Dana and the boys, as I like to call them, I feel like out of those 6 guys I just named, I think number 6 is Curtis Blaydes.
So do you think? So you want to see Gon Blaydes? So say that's what they do, and say it's not for the interim title. Do you think like that Aspinall and Tuivasa still makes more sense for the interim belt then, compared to Gon Blaydes?
So the 2 matchups that you just mentioned, I would say. I would probably say, I don't want to go all the way with it because I haven't thought about it long enough. Blaydes and Gon would be the more deserving of having an interim belt, but I think that Aspinall Tuivasa would be the one that would get it.
Yeah,
both guys riding a wave of momentum right now.
Yeah.
They're the future of your division. Why not give one of them that shine now, even if they ultimately come up short against Ngannou? They've been elevated to a point where they're going to last quite a while in the picture. Now, Blaydes is he might be just damaged goods in the UFC's eyes. He's lost twice to the champion, Francis Ngannou. What kind of market will there be for a third title fight? Now, the second one was the main event in a card in China that was airing at like 6 in the morning. I don't think many people in America watched that, so maybe you could sell a third fight. But it's hard. And then you have Derek Lewis, who, I mean, really, Derek Lewis is still kind of in there, but he's, after the loss to Tuivasa, he's a little bit removed. But he has that win over Curtis Blaydes. So Blaydes is just, his losses have been in such emphatic fashion that they hold him back. But really, he's just got to put his head down and keep winning. I mean, a win over Gon says a lot.
Oh, it does.
I mean, I think a win over Gon in your... Again, we don't know who the champion will be to start the year. Who knows if Ngannou's ever going to fight for the UFC again. But, I mean, Blaydes will be probably in the driver's seat at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he was potentially cut with the loss here, and instead I'm considering putting him in a title fight.
Yeah.
Could not have been a better night for Curtis Blaydes.
Yeah, please let us know, comments and social media. Like, what do you guys think of this title picture? What does Blaydes do?
What do you want to be next for Curtis Blaydes?
Yes, exactly.
And now, Dominic, before we move on, we got to talk about Chris Daukaus just a little bit, because this is back-to-back main events for him and ultimately back-to-back knockout losses. I was watching the post show on MMA Fighting's YouTube channel. I don't watch those guys a lot, but they're good, so check them out. But they were throwing around this idea, because Chris Daukaus is kind of an undersized heavyweight. He's only 240 pounds, and he wears it a little bit. He's not. Chris Blaydes is just a huge built guy.
Yeah, he's big.
Chris Daukaus has a little bit of flab on him,
Yeah.
So they were throwing around this idea of him going down to 205 pounds. Ooh. Now, I don't really know if I like that, because I kind of like what Daukaus brings as an undersized heavyweight.
Yeah.
He's a lot faster than some of these guys. He's got really good hand speed. But back-to-back losses via TKO maybe he just can't quite take those big shots against the power of these guys that are 260 pounds outweighing him
Yeah.
by 15, 20 pounds.
That's interesting. I think for this fight he was 243.
Yeah.
So we're talking 37 pounds if you get to 206. But I mean, maybe he could cut like some of that, just like the flub as you put it all.
Well,
they say it's a lot easier to cut the weight that way.
I mean, think about it like this, Dom. It would probably be him like naturally dieting down to like 230, and then he's probably cutting 25 pounds.
And he looks like a guy that could get like super. Like I feel like he could have a Stipe body. Like if you look at him, it looks like he has kind of that same build. That's interesting. I don't want to necessarily go out and say now because I didn't think he should have been fighting Curtis Blaydes after losing to Derek Lewis. I
agree.
I thought that was a weird matchup. I respected him because if he came in and won, then he launched himself right back in after the loss to Derek Lewis. But especially but I didn't like it going in. Hindsight, I definitely don't like it because it was like if you already lost to, I think he was number 3 at the time. Why did we kind of just rewarded him again and put him back in with another top 5? You don't see that very often. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see him try back in top 15. Let's see if he can get a win at heavyweight, see how he looks next, especially like on the feet if he has to go through any more adversity. But if we're talking another loss, especially if it's by KO, TKO, maybe. Like that is a very interesting topic to at least keep front of mind moving forward for Daukaus' career. I think there's potential there for him. I mean, he's 32. Mm-hmm. And he does have an interesting fight style, so I'm not giving up on heavyweight Daukaus, but light heavyweight is interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's not something I've considered before. It's just once it was brought up, I was like, I guess I didn't realize he was that undersized until I saw him up against Curtis Blaydes, and you can kind of just tell the size difference there. Now, a potential matchup I could see being next for him next weekend, or not next weekend. UFC 273, 2 weekends from now, has a pretty interesting heavyweight matchup on the prelims. How about the winner of Rosenstruik-Tybura?
Yeah.
I think that could be interesting, or even the loser of that fight, maybe. Since
either or.
Like the matchup, winners and winners and losers and losers. That would kind of fit the bill.
Yep.
Daukaus still has a lot of potential. I mean, this guy just prior to December of 2021, it was kind of this debate of if him or Tom Aspinall was the real future of the heavyweight division.
Yep.
For now, we seem to have our answer, but that doesn't mean that Daukaus is like not. He doesn't mean that Daukaus can't eventually get right back to where he was at that time as far as momentum. It was a pretty bad loss. I'll admit that, but he's still young enough and fresh enough in this division. There's a lot of fresh matchups around that he can bounce back. It's just probably take him out of the main event scene for a while, out of this top 5 area for a while. Let him try to work on some of the kinks and get back there as a much better fighter.
Yep, I agree.
Not the co-main event, but this fight, Dominic, was the show stealer, in my opinion.
It was fun.
Kai Kara-France, a big underdog on this card. He gets the win, and not only wins the fight via unanimous decision over Askar Askarov, giving Askarov his first loss of his professional MMA career, but Dominic, he also won the hearts of the fans there in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
Between the 2 events I've been to, UFC 203 and then Fight Night here in Columbus, outside of Stipe in Cleveland, this was the biggest fan reaction I heard across both shows for Kai Kara-France when they announced him as the winner. He looked like an absolute star here on this show. This guy is a breath of fresh air for that flyweight division that's already been given a ton of life.
Yes.
Davison Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno. I mean, Askarov has been one of those guys.
Yep.
You have Brandon Royval, who beat Kai Kara-France a year ago. So these guys, again, people that overlook this UFC flyweight division need to stop. And you know what? I overlooked in a sense. I said this matchup when we lost our main event. That was originally Blachowicz and Rakic. Mm-hmm. This was the second biggest fight on the card, and I said I don't think it can be a 5-round main event. Mm-hmm. I wish this fight was 5 rounds after watching it. 2 more rounds of that would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Fight of the year discussion potentially.
Yeah.
But as it stands, it was a great fight, a great win, the biggest win of Kara France's career. And Dominic, the only question I really have for you here is Kai Kara France next for the winner of the fourth fight between Davison and Brandon Moreno?
Well, hold that thought, Noah, because if you checked Twitter, Mr. Davison Figueiredo said, "Hey, Moreno, step aside because I want to fight Kai Kara France next for a title defense." And he added Dana White in the UFC. And Kai said, "Send the contract over." UFC, please don't. I need to see that fight a fourth time. Please don't. But yes, Kai earned a title shot after that win, a 3-fight win streak, 2 knockouts prior to that, giving Askar Askarov his first loss. Defended takedowns really well, by the way. Even in the first round, I know Askar had his back a lot, but no one else, I don't think, doesn't go down. But Kai,
I have to give him a lot of credit because I've always criticized him for his takedown defense, and it looked. You will never hear me give that as a negative on him again because he was so much improved here.
Yeah, and to do it against a next level grappler, because Askar is that next level for this 125-pound division. What an impressive performance by Kai. Went balls to the wall. The second round he came out guns blazing. The third round was sick. And when the momentum and the crowd was all, he did the OHIO chant. I mean, this dude's from New Zealand, by the way. That's why it's in the headline there. But people loved him, and he fed into that crowd. And, shoot, if the UFC headlines in Ohio again, Kai Kara France might be the main event. But, yes, that is a title-earning performance if I've ever seen one at flyweight. I don't agree with Davison. I thought that was weird. I think the saga, quote-unquote, between him and Moreno is something we've never seen before. Quite literally, there's never been 4 fights between 2 guys in the UFC. It's 1-1-1. That fight has to happen a 4th time. Kai gets the winner. That's how it should be.
Yeah, I think Davison, it might be a bit of Waleed Ishmael as well. That's kind of guiding things. Those guys, they're a lot of fun together, and part of that is that they sort of, it's a little cringy but they lean into being kind of heelish in this rivalry with Brandon Moreno. So I think it's just mind games that they're trying to play. I don't think the UFC will surpass that 4th fight. Ariel Helwani reported that that's the direction the UFC they were already planning to move that way before this card happened. Yeah. Could they take another look at it after the reception Kara France got? Maybe. But I just don't see why you don't do that fight in July and then Kara France gets the winner of that fight anyways.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's what it should.
To me, I would like to see Davison and Moreno fight before the fall, and that's what you're looking at if you make Davison wait and fight Kara France, who's coming off of a 3-round war here with Askarov. Yeah. So, I think this was a title fight earning performance, but when you have a fight in waiting, he's just gonna wait, I think, and that's the way it should be. God, I was just so impressed with the reception he got. I mean, he felt like an Ohio guy here.
Yes,
he even gave the OH chant. People went nuts.
Yes.
For Askar Askarov, it's a tough loss. I mean, it's the first loss of your career for a guy who some felt should have already gotten a title fight by this point. He loses here, going to kind of take a step back. But I definitely think a big fight's ahead for him. And Dominic, I'm going to actually throw this matchup out here that I gave to you last night. It's one that a lot of people may not like. It's one that I might get criticized for putting out there. But it's a mixture of what I would be interested in seeing and also what I think the UFC would be interested in making here. So keep that in mind. I think Askar Askarov versus Cody Garbrandt makes a lot of sense.
It's a fascinating matchup.
Cody Garbrandt, when we met him, you can do with this what you will. I mean, I'm just a fan meeting this guy.
We're breaking news right here.
Maybe I shouldn't undersell it, or maybe I should. I don't know. But when I met, when he was signing my lanyard for me, I was like, Cody, when do you think you'll be back in the octagon? And he said, I'll be fighting in July. So, he's looking to come back here in a couple months, and he didn't say, I wish I would have asked him, flyweight or bantamweight, but I feel like once I did that, he'd be like, wait a minute, you a reporter? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
But I could see him doing either way. I could see him kind of cutting his losses, going back to bantamweight, saying, "Well, that didn't work," or I could see him. He's still up until the loss. I mean, he was doubling down on how great he felt making that cut. So if that's to be believed, maybe you do get another fight at flyweight. And the UFC still view Cody Garbrandt very highly, as they should. He's a former champion. Yes, he's been on a really tough skid. And if you're a Cody Garbrandt fan, maybe you hope that he doesn't get such a highly ranked guy next. You want him to maybe take a step back. Askar Askarov is got. I mean, here he did land some good shots on Cara France, but he's mostly a very good wrestler.
And
Cody Garbrandt has really never fought, and you said this in the car, so I'll give you credit because I know you were about
no,
to
you're good.
say it. But Cody Garbrandt's really never fought like a great wrestler. Like TJ Dillashaw's a really good wrestler, but TJ Dillashaw didn't use his wrestling in that fight because he's so well rounded.
Yeah.
He's fought guys with good wrestling. That's just it's never been like something used against him.
Yep.
I would love to see how that matchup would play out.
Mm-hmm.
And Cody Garbrandt would have kind of the advantage Cara France had here, the power in his hands. But again, could Cody Garbrandt have the takedown defense to stay on his feet? Could he get knocked out by Askar Askarov? I mean, those are questions that need to be asked. If this fight were to go, let's say it's a 5-round main event, just hypothetically, it probably wouldn't be, especially if it's in July. But let's say it's a 5-round main event. How does Cody's gas tank hold up over 5 rounds? Because he seemed to get a little bit gassed against Rob Font a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very intriguing matchup. It may not completely make sense rankings-wise where these two are in their career. Cody coming off a loss to Kai probably shouldn't be fighting a guy who's right there with them again. But the UFC, I think, they think Cody Garbrandt's a real nice guy to have in that division that lacks a lot of star power. That's the matchup I would go with.
Yep, I like it.
Let's move on to 1X. More on UFC Columbus later in the show. But there was another event this weekend, Dom.
Uh-oh.
Straight out of Singapore. Unfortunately, due to the crazy weekend it was kind of hard to catch this card for us because Saturday, it started midnight or 1 a.m. Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And went till the main card started at 8 a.m. A lot going on. I was able to catch it. I caught the main card, I should say. Wasn't able to watch any of the prelims. So really there's 3 fights to talk about. But we're going to start with the main event here, or the co-main event. But the biggest fight of the weekend, we said. And did it live up? Yeah, I mean, I was a bit skeptical of how this would work, Dom. This flyweight freestyle between Demetrious Johnson and Rodtang. 2 rounds Muay Thai, 2 rounds MMA. I thought it could be a clusterfuck, or maybe it would just be a real breath of fresh air to MMA and a lot of fun and something maybe one should consider doing in the future. I would say it was more of the latter than the former. And the first round was Muay Thai. Rodtang definitely got the better of that round, as you would expect. Mighty Mouse held his own. Round 2, though, Mighty Mouse went for the fucking kill. And, got the back, just had the fight. There was a hand fight for a couple minutes, gets the submission win. It was a great moment for Mighty Mouse, man. This is a guy who's a legend of the sport, never quite gotten the credit he deserves, but here he was a representative of the entire sport going up against the Muay Thai representative of Rodtang, and he looked phenomenal. Coming off that loss to Moraes where he got knocked out, maybe some people thought, paused a little bit. Is the best days of Mighty Mouse behind him? I don't think so, guys. I really don't. I think with this win, and considering Adriano Moraes also won, I'd love to see them run that fight back. I know Demetrious just seems to be wanting a lot of fun fights. He said he'd love to do stuff like this more often.
Yeah.
But truthfully, I would love to see Demetrious Johnson get another crack at Adriano Moraes for that flyweight title. What do you think, Dom?
It feels like one would like to move in that direction. I still feel like they would want to have Demetrious as a champion for them, if at all possible. You know what I'm saying? And it would be a big rematch, especially like you said. Moraes defended his title, got a finish of his own. So, and Demetrious beating a Muay Thai, one of the best ever in the sport's history, and Rodtang is impressive. And then he goes back to the bread and butter in round 2 to get the submission. I think that's a sellable fight. I know they don't always do pay-per-views like this one, but that would be a big fight. And if they want Demetrious to be back in the limelight after having this big fight, why not give him a belt next, or a fight for the belt?
Yeah, and again, we're still pretty new to following one championship, so my apologies if there is a flyweight contender that is just like more deserving, has this huge win streak, but it's hard to deny that fight wouldn't be pretty big. And if Johnson wins, then you set up an immediate trilogy, and that'll be huge as well. Yeah. I really like Adriano Moraes too, and I want to see him be elevated by association with Mighty Mouse. So
yeah,
I just think there's a lot of fun possibilities there.
What do you think? I know you so transparently, I didn't get to see this, but Noah filled me in on the car ride to Columbus, which was nice. But what do you think going forward for Rodtang? Like, because I know he hinted at he might want to transition into MMA. Do you think, did he hint at anything? They probably didn't interview him, but like, what do you think? Could he still? He's only 24, so like, could we still see him make that transition into MMA for one?
I'm really glad you asked that question, because I wanted to kind of address that. Again, I should have looked it up before this episode. I can't remember for sure, but I think Rodtang is not just a one Muay Thai champion, but I believe he's competed in kickboxing as well for them.
He's 1-0 in kickboxing and won.
Yeah, so he has said, if I remember right, that he would like to be a 3-sport champion in one.
Okay.
So I believe he has interest. He's, as you said, only 24 years old, in kickboxing and MMA for one. So I definitely don't think this is the last time we see him in this capacity. But I think if for him, he would prefer to just go straight into like an MMA fight head on, rather than doing this kind of hybrid, big fight thing. I don't think it's the last you see of him for sure. I mean, he's only 24 years old, and he's already made such an impact on Muay Thai. There's, without a doubt, by 5 years from now, he will have fought MMA again, in my opinion.
I like it.
And I do think that there's room. I think there's reason to believe he'll do quite well. I know he got submitted here, but I mean, I think that was what everybody kind of expected. He did a decent job fighting off the hands for a couple minutes, trying to have some play defense, with when he got his back taken. But again, it's a guy who's relatively a novice going up against one of the best to ever do it. It's what happens, man.
I like it.
More on that card later as well, but we do have some news to talk about. Is it worth talking about? Well, we'll see how Dom feels about this one, because Nate Diaz making headlines again. He did it by the simple press of a button and sending a tweet on the Twitter sphere. Basically, Nate Diaz has requested his release, Dominic, from the UFC. He added Dana White. He added some poor guy named Hunter on Twitter that's not Hunter Campbell that people were going after. Now that guy's name on Twitter is Hunter, in parentheses, not UFC guy.
I like it.
He might have had Sean Shell. I don't know. He was at Dana and the boys, as I call them.
Yeah.
Said, you guys won't give me a fight. I want out. I got things to do. Was putting some emojis of a beach. Perhaps that Bellator card in Hawaii is still on his mind. So, Dominic, I'm curious, is there much to take from this? Is Nate Diaz serious, or is this just a bit of him kind of trolling the UFC for being slow to get him that fight he wants?
I think that's the latter there. Trolling, like...
Yeah, I guess I said that. I guess I kind of revealed how I felt by questioning
I think it's
that.
Frustration, like... What is the holdup? And specifically, why are we still sitting here? It's about to be April this coming weekend, and we don't have Diaz versus Poirier. What more do you need to sell a fight than these two going back and forth, agreeing upon everything? I don't. And again, we're not in the back office. I realize it. I fucking wish I was a fly on the wall with the boys, because I don't get it. I think this fight's massive. I don't understand what the holdup is. I know it's Nate's last fight on his contract. I know there's weird stuff that goes on when it gets to that instance, but this is Nate Diaz. This is different than some other dude that's a ranked fighter or someone, just someone. This is one of your biggest stars in the company. He clearly wants a big fight against one of the other biggest stars in your company now, Dustin Poirier. This fight needs to happen. I don't understand the holdup. Dustin's frustrated. Nate is clearly frustrated, and he's letting it all out on Twitter in a funny way because he's getting a lot of reception from it. But I think it's genuinely like, what the hell's going on? I want to fight. I'm asking you. I'm begging. I'm pleading. Give me a fight. I don't get it.
So I partly agree with you, but I will say that I think Nate is very aware of why the UFC aren't giving him the fight yet. And again, this is all speculation. A lot of this does come from Ariel Helwani, I'll admit, where I believe that the UFC want to re-sign Nate Diaz.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this reluctance to just straight up give him the fight he wants unless they get something in return. You know what I mean? Because I don't think they want Nate Diaz to go test his value elsewhere. I think they would like to keep him in-house. He's one of their biggest stars. And, it's just a control, right? I mean, everybody wants that. You have a guy like Nate Diaz who maybe isn't – his best days are probably behind him, but he is still good for some big fights.
Oh, yeah.
You have those matchups with Masvidal, with Conor McGregor, with Dustin Poirier still out there that would be three of the biggest fights that the company would ever be able to do.
Yeah.
And then if after that, let's say he lost all three of those in a row, well, then the value's lessened to the point where you don't really need him anymore. So that's just the monopoly, or that's the politics, I think, being played out behind the scenes. It's very frustrating as a fight fan because we don't care about that. We just legitimately want these two to fight.
Yeah.
These two want to fight each other.
Yeah.
Dana says they want to make that fight happen because the fans want to see it. Well, obviously, there's a reason why it's not happening then.
Yeah.
And I think it's still going to end up happening, but I think Nate Diaz is more trolling. I think it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek, like, he is frustrated, but I think it's because, truthfully, I think Nate might legitimately just not be all that interested in fighting anymore.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he is truthfully nearing retirement. He's even tweeted out, like, hey, I'm out, peace. Kind of like the old Conor McGregor retirements kind of deal. He's been a ball on Twitter lately. But
I mean, it's just this guy. The guy has only fought a couple times in the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, he could think of that gap between the second Conor McGregor fight and when he came back and fought Anthony Pettis.
You're right.
It was, I think, around 3.5, 4 years. I'm sure there was some pay stuff going on with that or whatnot, but I bet a lot of it was just Nate. He made a lot of money in a couple years, more than he had made in the previous 10, 15
Ever.
he was competing before that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a part of him that's like, do I really need to keep doing it? I mean, I know he wanted a third Conor fight and stuff like that, but he's also a guy who wants to do it on his terms. And Nate Diaz, as great as he is, I'm not sure if all these matchups I mentioned, I don't know if he gets to do it on his terms. He might be the B-side on all those matchups. I mean, I would say with Dustin, he's bigger than Dustin, but I think the UFC value Dustin more a little bit right now. So there's a bit of Nate wanting to do things his way on his terms, and the UFC don't play by that sometimes. The other fighter on that matchup ain't going to play by that. They have their demands. It's obviously more complicated than just one guy wanting to fight one guy, but I so wish it wasn't. Why can't it just be simple, Dom? These two want to fight. I still think it's going to happen probably in July or August, but the fact that it wasn't booked already is just so surprising to me. But it all comes down to this little tug of war being played, I think.
I'm going to ask one question, a yes or no, to finish this subject. Do we see, and I'm not even going to say Nate versus Dustin, but do we see a Nate Diaz fight announcement before the end of April? Essentially, we have 1 month to work with.
Before the end of April.
Do we see a Nate Diaz fight announcement?
Let me think of the time frame. I just said July or August. I. Oof. Wow, that's a great question. And you know what? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that this thing might get to mid-May before we get that announcement. But once we do, buddy, you best believe we're going to be here to talk about it.
I was gonna say no as well, so now we do agree on that. But
So
it's
unfortunate to agree on that. I hate to agree on that.
it's just it's hey, let us know there too, because I'm just ready for this to be over. I want that fight. I don't even, dude. If they do Nate Connor trilogy, still a fight I need to see. If we never get to see the Nate and Connor trilogy, now I'm just ranting. I feel like that would just be such a
Missed opportunity.
Yes, a missed opportunity to never fulfill that trilogy, because regardless of their stature and where they are in their careers, that trilogy is always going to make sense.
I mean, honestly, it already has kind of lost something at this point. Like, it should have happened right
so
away.
long. So
I mean, if the UFC were adamant about not doing Conor and Floyd Mayweather, which I know was so massive and did so much for Conor's life, and just, it was one of the biggest pay-per-views in combat sports history. But if that fight doesn't happen, that trilogy definitely was the next fight, right? I mean,
I think if they do that trilogy immediately, as in their next fight following the rematch, that absolutely smashes UFC 205 when they headlined and Conor became double champ. I think it rivals, not beats, but rivals Conor Khabib. If they would have capitalized on it at that time after the second fight and done it, boom, trilogy, it would be up there. Probably second best pay-per-view ever.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you. So I still think it's huge now, but it just, the longer they wait, I think the more it loses.
Yes, I agree.
Now some fight announcements, because we got a decent amount here, Dominic.
I know a lot of them came and I didn't even recognize that they happened.
Yeah, so May 14th, we had a couple pretty good fights added to the card. Katlyn Chookagian. She's back. She's still with the UFC. There was some, talk of it was her last fight was the last fight on her contract. She beat Jennifer Maia via decision for the second time. She's still ranked number 2 in this division, and she'll be welcoming Dominic's favorite Amanda Ribas to that division, the number 9 ranked strawweight, and then also directly after our main event Saturday night, they announced the rebooking of the original main event between Jan Blachowicz and Aleksandar Rakic to headline 5 rounds that May 14th card. Dominic, obviously one fight being bigger than the other here, but how do you feel about these additions to May 14th?
So I got to start with my girl, right, Amanda Ribas, because I felt like she had a good bounce back win when she beat Virna Jandiroba. Good fight, by the way.
Yeah.
And that was one she needed. She had a long layoff because she was coming off the knockout loss and whatnot. And I still believe in her. I think she's got great potential. She fought against Paige Van Zandt at Fight Island at 125, but that doesn't count to me. That's not.
I kind of forgot about that.
Well, it was like kind of a short notice type of thing, and then this is Katlyn Chookagian. This is like the woman that no one can really beat to get to Valentina, but Katlyn can't beat Valentina kind of deal. That's what we're kind of dealing with here. I was shocked. I was shocked when they made this fight. They're really launching Amanda, because if she beats Katlyn Chookagian, there's Valentina's next challenger for a title. Obviously, she's going to fight Taylor Santos and whatnot, but that's what will happen 100%. I don't think it's a good stylistic matchup on paper, but Amanda's well-rounded. We'll see how it plays out there. I just thought it was interesting. Blachowicz Rakic, we've given our thoughts on it already, and it just makes sense. I'm glad they were able to salvage it together. It still feels like, if Jan wins, he can get back to the title shot. Should Rakic win, he definitely needs to be there for the title shot. So I'm glad they were to rebook that. It does deserve a 5-round spotlight. It could be lackluster, but it also could be very fun and exciting.
How about UFC 276 on July 2nd, that first of 2 pay-per-views in July? Casey O'Neill, now ranked number 12, takes on top 10 Jessica I.
Well, your tweet, you sent this fight announcement to me, and you said, or maybe I don't remember, but you said the UFC hates Jessica I because Jessica I was supposed to fight Mano Ferro, who we're going to talk about here in a couple minutes, and that was like, wow, for Jessica, you're kind of playing a gatekeeper here against an absolute savage in Ferro. Now she falls out of that fight, but you got to fight Casey O'Neill. And I told Noah in the DMs, Casey O'Neill and Mano are racing each other to see who can get to Valentina quicker. Mano has won that race because she just beat Jennifer Maia. We're going to talk about it in a couple minutes. But that's what it feels like to me. So Casey O'Neill, she beat Roxanne. I feel like she could have bumped up more than Jessica I think this is still a favorable matchup for her. But if they want to kind of more so push her a little slower than what they're doing with Ferro and kind of space out their two best prospects right now, then I see the method behind their madness.
Agreed. I kind of like doing this. I kind of just like telling you to fight and letting you give your thoughts, and I move on.
Fair enough.
Alex Pereira. We said after his win over Bruno Silva, it might be time to just kind of throw him into the top of the heap and see if he can prove with the win there that he can fight Israel Adesanya. Well, yeah. Dominic, he gets a matchup against one of three current middleweights that are ranked number 4 on the UFC rankings website.
I'm sorry, what?
That is right, 3.
Are you serious?
There's a 3-way tie for number 4. So technically, Sean Strickland is 4B. Because he's 4B. Wait, did I say Pereira's 4B? Anyways, Alex Pereira is fighting number 4B, Sean Strickland. Everybody's favorite Twitter personality. So, Dominic, this is happening July 30th, the second pay-per-view of the month, UFC 277. Mm-hmm. Are you on board with this matchup?
Funny enough, this got announced when we had just got to Columbus, so it was kind of cool. We were all waiting to get into the arena. And didn't see this one coming, but we were kind of talking about this when Pereira just won his last fight against Bruno Silva. Especially, I think you were like, I could see him really getting thrown in because they might want to fast track him to get to that Adesanya, the rematch, quote unquote, because they fought in kickboxing. And they put him up against the striker in Strickland. So on paper, this is still in Pereira's favor. Granted, it's up a big level. Sean Strickland is very good, people. Don't get it twisted. But it's not a crazy grappler. It's not some jiu-jitsu guy. It's a guy that's going to stand and trade with Pereira. So I think if he beats Strickland, there it is. Here's your title shot on a silver platter, essentially. You go 3-0, beat one ranked person. Here's your title fight. That's what I think is going to happen should he beat Sean Strickland.
I will just say, I know I've been kind of not giving.
No, I want give your thoughts if you got them. Give them.
Well, I feel like the first couple fights that we talked about here, your thoughts were essentially mine. That's why I kind of just to keep things efficient instead of just repeating. But this one, I love this fight. I didn't really think about it.
No.
I mentioned Pereira being put up against Derek Brunson. No, fuck that. Let's do this.
Yeah.
You might be right. Maybe I'm overvaluing Sean Strickland's chances here, but I think this fight is so interesting.
Oh, it is.
Sean Strickland, say what you want about the guy. Hell, he might even say it for you. But he is so good on the feet.
He's good. Yeah.
And for, again, his personality type, which kind of is this like, Barstool does that rough and rowdy.
Yeah.
He kind of has the personality of a guy that would fight for that. And yet he is one of the most technical kickboxers in the division. Now, there's a big level in terms of pedigree going from him to Alex Pereira, but in terms of MMA level striking and, just the fact that you do have more than just kickboxing to have to worry about, I do think that this is a beautiful matchup. And with the win, I would say Pereira rightfully would be next for Israel Adesanya or Jared Cannonier, depending on what happens there. But yeah, I like that Pereira is getting this type of matchup. And actually, I think for Strickland, the UFC are going to be reluctant to put Sean Strickland in a title fight. And you can say that that's not true, but I think it is true. Could you imagine if this guy was fighting Israel Adesanya in one of the bigger pay-per-views of the year, and he's just got free reign to kind of say some of the things that he said before? Again, I know some of it might offend some people. Don't get me wrong. I don't love everything the guy says. But I can't deny that there's not something fascinating about him.
If he wins this fight, though, Noah, will he get a title shot?
Well, I was going to say, I think that if he were to win, I mean, I don't know if he would get one, but I would argue that this is a big win for him because, I mean, Pereira has a lot of momentum. Everybody seems to think, even though he's technically unranked, that he's kind of like a win away. So it feels like a title eliminator in some ways, but weirdly enough, it feels more like a title eliminator for the unranked guy than the one who's ranked number 4-B.
Yeah, 4B. Interesting matchup.
Yeah. And then we got one out in September.
Yeah, dude, this is like almost 6 months in advance.
Yeah, so they announced that Benson Henderson has re-signed with Bellator. There was kind of that thing him and Habib had after his last fight where they were kind of like, hey, shaking hands, kissing babies and whatnot. But instead, he's re-signed with Bellator, likely going to be the last contract of his career. He's still ranked number 3, so he's still like up there and coming off a big win in his last fight. He's going up against Peter Queally. This card on September 23rd is going to be at Bellator Dublin.
They're back.
Zombie. I can't wait for that to come back. That's how the song goes.
I know. It was just. I'm not saying you're a bad singer.
Look, I know I didn't hit that note, but look,
you can make up for it in 2 weeks with Korean Zombie. Okay.
Look, guys, let me just say, Peter Queally, he might be my favorite fighter in Bellator simply for his walkout because I've never seen a walkout elevate a guy in my eyes so much. I've yet to see the guy fucking win in Bellator, but I love it. The walkout. I love the song "Zombie" by the Cranberries, and that's the crowd just fucking make that
it's
just a chef's kiss. But Dominic, as far as the matchup, Henderson Queally in Dublin, could this be pretty big? And I mean, is there some stakes here at this point?
Yeah. Oh, I think this is going to be the main event. I'm imagining it's going to be. It's going to be big. Peter Queally's going to be big, obviously, because he's from Ireland. The crowd's going to go crazy. Big fight for him, especially fighting one of the bigger name guys that he has fought, and it's still as important because Henderson's still ranked number 3, like you said. So it's interesting. I'll be curious to see if Benson Henderson will still look good because he did look great in his last win, the one that he really needed. I think if he would have lost that fight, I don't think we see him fighting again. So that win really did a lot for him and got him this new contract. Big fight.
Let's move on into the rest. Some more fights from the weekend that we think are worth talking about. Let's start with 1X, Dom. We had a couple champions defend their MMA titles here and defend it successfully. The main event, Angela Lee gets the second round submission over Stamp Fairtex in what was a barn burner of a fight. Dominic, I highly recommend for you and the audience to watch that fight if you can find it anywhere. Hell, guys, I might even tell you to go stream it illegally, but I won't because legal reasons prohibit me from doing so. But seriously, if you can, I don't know if you can buy the pay-per-view or whatnot still, or if you can buy it, if you can get a discounted version and just watch that fight. This fight was awesome. Fairtex dropped Angela Lee in round 1. I mean, Angela Lee hadn't fought in 2.5 years for one. So there was a lot of questions for me on how she was going to be coming back in here. And I do think you saw a little bit of ring rust early, or at least a little bit of hesitancy compared to what we've seen out of her previously. But round 2, she looked just rejuvenated, ready to go. Maybe getting punched in the mouth kind of, woke her up a little bit. Stamp Fairtex gave her a tough go at it, but once that fight got to the round, in round 2, Angela Lee was throwing submissions up like nobody's business. And to Fairtex's credit, a lot were defended. But, I mean, there was probably 4 or 5 submissions in round 2, including a twister at one point. No panic taps from Stamp. She held in there, but ultimately Angela Lee got it with, I believe, the rear naked choke. 10 seconds left in round 2. Angela Lee, man, she's a stud here. And, for the atomweight division, this is a division that a lot have wanted the UFC to implement. So it's nice when, really, we are watching the best atomweight fighters in the world here. And they showed out. And this was the fight that was put in the main event. And I kind of questioned it. I was like, wow, you're putting it over Moraes and then Mighty Mouse and Rodtang. I'm like, okay, we'll see. but it earned it, and it performed as such, and it was a great way to cap off what was such a historic card for one championship. I will also mention Adriano Moraes defending his belt successfully, that flyweight title. This was his second defense. I believe that win over Mighty Mouse was the first against Yuya Wakamatsu. Coming in round 3, 3 minutes 58 seconds in. Pretty competitive fight. I mean, Moraes, he looked to be just a bit better. I mean, that's I don't know how else to really describe it. Like he just seemed to be a step ahead. I mentioned not knowing a ton about Wakamatsu coming in. I think he performed adequately. I thought he was good, a quality challenge. But again, the whole time I'm watching this, I'm thinking, man, if Mighty Mouse wins, I want to see that rematch so bad.
Yeah.
I think that could be just such a big fight for one, and just for me, it's just for my interest. But Moraes looked good here. I still think that guy can be a star for this promotion.
I love your thoughts.
But one more.
Keep feeding me.
Because wait, there's more. A fight that I was excited about, then I was like a little laissez-faire about it. But Dominic, it was maybe the fight of the night, or the moment of the night, maybe for one, the moment of the morning.
Moment of the morning.
It was a long day. Yoshihiro Akiyama at 46 years old TKO Shinya Aoki round 2. Aoki just a couple years removed from a title reign in one, but yes, also being like 39 years old in his own right. But Akiyama, man, Sexy Yama, he said after the fight he wants to bring sexy back to the fight game.
Ooh.
So almost leaving the door open for another fight here. I don't know about all that. But again, Dominic, Aoki got the back pretty quickly in round 1, and essentially all of round 1 was Akiyama trying to prevent hand fighting. I mean, it was a pretty clear, decisive round 1 for Aoki, but Akiyama was landing some great punches in round 2. Shinya Aoki couldn't really handle it, got dropped, fight was over. It was an awesome, again, for this card that's celebrating the history of the promotion, you got these two Japanese MMA legends going head to head, and Akiyama, man, a moment that you won't forget for years to come.
I love it.
But let's move back to UFC Columbus, Dominic.
We got a couple things.
This card, it compared to UFC London, obviously not.
We had a hard thing to follow, a hard event to follow.
It's one of maybe the best fight night in UFC history.
Yeah.
This is not that. But I was very pleasantly surprised at how many takeaways I had. Because I try to be realistic. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, maybe most of this card's going to suck, but at least I'll be in person, so it'll make it more fun. Really, most of this card was fun, and there was just a couple fights that really sucked. I mean, that was really kind of what it came down to. Co-main event, Alexa Grasso. The first submission of her career in a first-round victory over Joanne Wood, and Grasso getting 2 takedowns, I believe. I don't know if she was credited for both, but that means that Dominic has seen pretty much, he has seen Joanne Wood get taken down over and over again in his 2 appearances for the UFC, so that still haunts him to this day. But Dominic, I think the bigger story here being the victory for Alexa Grasso, the boxer, as we were hyping her up to be, showing a little bit more wrinkles to her game. How much did this performance do for you in terms of maybe how highly you value her moving ahead?
I thought it was big. It was a big win for her. She's 3-0 at 125 pounds against really good competition. I know that Joanne Wood, when she does get finished, it's by sub, but I didn't foresee it being against Grasso. So she showed me Grasso that is a new layer to her game. And moving forward with how good this division is, it's something I wanted to see, regardless of who it came against and who her opponent was, because I know she's going to have the boxing to fall back on, depending on whoever the matchup is. So I loved it. I thought it was a big-time performance for her to do it so easily. I mean, she dominated the first round, and it ended, obviously, at 4 minutes in, but it was all her. It was all her moments on the feet for the small time it was there, and on her grappling looked great. She transitioned easily. She got to the back easily. Everything was flawless. Really, it was a perfect performance, and she She's right there, man. She is, especially she's got Mexico behind her, and they keep pushing that market. You see the big things that Moreno's done. She has a very bright future still in this game in the UFC, Grasso.
Yeah, she's damn good, but I guess when it came to this fight, I get it. First submission win, and she did it, made it look pretty easy. So I think for maybe many, including you go, okay, this girl has a much more well-rounded game than we want to give credit for, because the boxing's always what you go to with Grasso. I saw a little bit of that, but like the way those takedowns kind of happened, it was kind of like Wood throwing a spinning elbow that she kind of gets caught in, and they trip over one another. Like the takedowns were a bit awkward. They weren't really like takedowns as so much as like trips or scrambles in a way. But as far as when they were on the ground, I thought Grasso transitioned very well. She did a very good job at just getting that choke secured. But I think for me, this was more of just a disappointment in Joanne Wood. Now, she was a big underdog here, and I think there's something to be said for that. But we know that Joanne Wood is someone that likes to stand and trade, and usually is not at her best when she is getting taken down and being held down. And she has fallen into submissions previously. I believe Jennifer Maya's only submission of her career is against Joanne Wood. And, for me, this just was like, I walked away from this performance going, what do you even do with Joanne Wood now? Like, I'm assuming she still has interest in fighting. And I don't think that with this loss she's going to be cut or anything like that. I think the UFC like her. I think she's a nice piece for this division. She's not too far removed from being in the title picture at one point. But I just kind of go like, I mean, what do you really want to do with her is kind of my question, because this is another first round loss for her. And this is women's divisions, guys, where over half of their MMA bouts go to distance. And, Joanne Wood is getting stopped in the first round. It's something that's, I don't know really what to say about it, but it's not good.
Well, I mean, that's a three in a row now that she's dropped. So
is it? Or, well, two of them were first round finishes. Was the third?
Just in general, though, like a losing streak. To lose 3 in a row, she's definitely especially with all these prospects coming in, she could very quickly, and lack of a better term, lose relevance in this division.
Yeah. That's really how it feels. I mean, again, Alexa Grasso, I think, will maybe get a top 5 next. Maybe a matchup with like Jennifer Maya would make a lot of sense. But for Wood, man, for someone who, I was ready to see her kind of get that shot against Valentina a couple years ago. And now I almost am like, if she was cut, I don't think we'd be missing much right now. But I don't think she will, and I don't want her to, of course.
Of course.
But, yeah, I mean, she's great. She's such a sweetheart, but I don't know. I just don't really have like any fight of that interests me for her moving forward.
Yeah.
Brian Barberena gets a split decision win over Columbus, Ohio's own Matt Brown, and I'm just gonna say, me and Dominic were not two of the people that booed our winner Brian Barberena here. So Dominic, your thoughts on this fight, and maybe if you want to drop a thought on the crowd booing our winner Barberena as well.
Awesome fight. We knew it was going to be just 2 scrappy, tough, durable guys that have been in there against other tough, scrappy, durable guys, and they delivered. They got the official fight of the night. We had on this card, the main card, we had 3 boom, boom, boom fights. Where it's like, all right, that was fight of the night. And then the other one happens, like, well, that one's the fight of the night. And then this one happened. It's like, shit. Well, I guess that one's the fight of the night.
They were all surprising. Well, this one didn't surprise me. This was the least surprising to be good.
Yeah.
But, like, all 3 of them was just like, oh, my God. Like, these are really good fights.
Yeah, great fight. So, I loved it. It sucks Matt Brown couldn't pull out the win, in Columbus. I did think Brian won. If I remember correctly.
I scored it for him as well.
2 and 3, I think. Yeah, because Matt Brown had 2 or 3 takedowns in the first round. I think I scored rounds 2 and 3 for Barberena.
We thought that this would be fought almost entirely on the feet, but it seemed like Matt Brown, when he was having success, it was the fact that he was getting so many trips and takedowns himself. That's definitely the big glaring hole in this win for Brian Barberena is, man, he seemed to get taken down way too easy here. Maybe it's just because the expectation is that Matt Brown's not going to take you down, but
Yeah.
he did, and he did it with ease. But Barberena did seem to get the better of the exchanges on the feet and did seem to kind of hold on to his gas tank a little better than Matt Brown did.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Even though, let's be honest, the way Matt Brown looked here, where he looks like he's gasping for air and like slowing down, he literally does that in every single fight. It's just his fucking will that keeps him going.
Yeah, this is a very high output, very fast paced fight too. There was like no time to breathe except for the minute between rounds. As for the crowd, I don't like when people boo in general. So it did suck like being there and hearing it. But what I will say is that if Matt Brown wasn't from Columbus, Ohio, I don't think there's a boo in the whole arena because I think the fight was awesome. I think people loved the fight. It was a split decision though. I think they just wanted Matt Brown to win. And that's why I think the boos came into play.
Yeah, I understand the human nature part, right? Like it's easy to just go, well, that's just human nature for you. You got a lot of people that are at this point pretty buzzing or drunk, and they got a hometown guy that they love. It's a really close fight. You want him to get that victory. It might be the last fight of his career. You don't know.
Yeah.
And then the other guy gets to win, and you're just like, oh, I didn't like that. Boo.
Yeah.
But I was ashamed, quite frankly. And you know, Dominic, I think I'm a bit harsher on these type of things maybe than you are, where I get so pissed when people boo, and it
Even when the fight blows,
yes,
I don't boo.
Like the Nicolau Dvorak fight was the worst fight on. Well, actually, a better example is probably the
Casey and Borshev.
Yeah, Jacasey Borshev, where I get it. Jacasey dominated, but did not have a ton of output on the ground. Borshev had nothing for him. Crowd booing the shit out of Jacasey, but I was impressed with how Jacasey was able to get that victory. And it was a win he needed. And I hated that people were booing him because. But let me focus here on Barberena. Barberena just went to war for 3 rounds, so this is an audience that booed a fight like Nicolau and Dvorak, where for the first 3 minutes of round 1 they did not throw a single strike.
Yeah.
But then when you get a fight where there's high output and a lot of strikes thrown and a lot of damage being taken by both these guys, and you still boo, what's that tell you?
Yeah.
I think overall the crowd was great, and I think I think that's kind of the dual-edged sword. You get a really excited crowd, a crowd that's very into it. I mean, you saw the ovation for Bruce Buffer, for Herb Dean in the main event. I mean, Herb Dean even had to kind of acknowledge the what he got here.
Did you during the prelims, Michael Bisping got up to take a piss, and I thought like the biggest star of Ohio's history came into the building. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, so there's a part that's like, okay, it's great that you get a crowd that's so invested.
Yeah.
But the negative is that they will do something like that maybe once or twice a night, and it kind of
Well, and that's the thing, like, you know, regardless, like, there's always going to be the boos at these cards, and it is a shame.
It's the human nature. That's what I said. Like, it's like nothing's going to change it. You know, it's not. But Barberena didn't take it to heart, and I appreciate that. He seemed to be well aware. You know, he had a lot of respect for Ohio, which kind of made me more mad. Like, if he would have got on the mic and just started, like, going off on, then maybe, you probably do boo the guy. But he was super respectful of Ohio, of Matt Brown. All he was talking about is how much he loves his family. Can't wait to go back and see him on his farm.
Yeah.
And then people were booing him even harder. I'm like, man, this crowd is ruthless right now. I thought Brian Barberena was the proper winner. It was a close fight. Matt Brown gave it everything he had. I wish we could have got to hear from him post-fight. Maybe, was this it?
Yeah.
But I don't think it will be. I think we might see him again, actually, following that.
I think so too.
The other fight you mentioned in those 3 fights that were all bangers, Neil Magny ties GSP's welterweight record for wins with 13, I believe it was. He gets the split decision win over Max Griffin here, Dominic. Any takeaways from this fight? Did Neil Magny, being that he's a top 10 talent and a guy that's been a hard puzzle to solve, uh, did he show you anything here that might either, I guess, improve or decrease your interest in his fighting future? And I think I'll ask you the same question for our loser here, Max Griffin.
I think I was just surprised that Neil struck with Griffin a lot more than I anticipated. We're very used to seeing Neil utilize heavy grappling, heavy clinch control up against the fence. But here he finally used his reach a little bit, but he was getting cracked too on the feet. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I was just surprised at his willingness to stand and trade with Max, even after, I think he got knocked down in the first round. Was there a knockdown?
I think you're right. I think Neil Magny got knocked down.
And Max Griffin did what Max Griffin does. He comes out there and he's going to bang. He's going to scrap. And he brought it to Neil Magny. I think his stock still goes up after that fight, even after losing. He was on a 3-fight win streak going into that fight. And if I'm not mistaken, Noah, was his intro song him? Because it was about himself. It was Max Payne, and that's what the lyrics were.
Well, Max Payne is a video game character too.
Oh. But yeah, it was all about getting knockouts in the UFC and getting submissions and stuff.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. So I don't know. Somebody could confirm with me. Does Max Griffin also do like some rapping? But this song was actually about himself.
Yeah. So I wasn't really listening to the lyrics, but I did hear like Max Payne.
Yeah.
And I know Max Payne is like a video game character, like some sort of assassin type or something. So
gotcha.
What did you drop? What happened over there?
My phone fell, and then it almost yanked my earphones out, and it hurt. But I'm good.
Yeah. Okay, we're still good to go on.
We're good. Yes.
But I will just mention for Max Griffin, I thought it was weird that he kind of got put in this fight against a top 10.
Yeah, true.
And I thought I was worried. I was not confident that Neil Magny was going to get that decision win. I say worried because I put money on Neil Magny by decision.
Yeah.
Not because I was necessarily not that I don't like Max Griffin. He got the win. I don't know. I cannot fairly tell you how I scored this fight because I totally had a betting bias the whole time. But I was worried, I'll put it that way. Max Griffin gave him a lot of problems here on the feet. Yeah. And honestly, I walk away going, Max Griffin's stock's improved. And, this was big for Neil Magny. I was happy to see him kind of get that record. This is a guy that's never fought for a title, never been a champion, and yet he's remained this relevant for years. And some people might look at that as like a backhanded compliment, but I don't think so. When guys like him, Jim Miller, these guys that remain relevant without necessarily reaching the pinnacle, so many of that people don't have that. So many champions fall hard.
Yeah.
And you got these guys that just kind of ride that wave for years and years in the sport. There's something to be said for that. And Neil Magny, in the post-fight, calling out Khamzat Chimaev again. I know that fight probably will never happen because Khamzat Chimaev is about to fight Gilbert Burns. If Gilbert Burns wins, then we're talking.
Yeah.
But if Khamzat wins that fight, like I think most are kind of thinking is going to happen, and the odds are telling me is going to happen.
Yeah.
We'll probably never see that fight. But honestly, I will say it kind of fired me up, the post-fight. I mean, Neil Magny calling him out. Yeah,
he'll fight anyone, man.
Respect to Neil Magny for being the only guy that was calling for that matchup.
And he has been on record, too, for months.
Yes. And I will also say, though, that I felt like this was the first time I looked at a Neil Magny fight and went, maybe Neil's lost a little something. He fought differently. He used his reach more. And you saw where that gave him some improvements or benefits, but also where he got cracked a decent amount. But I felt like he should have had a less troubled time with someone of Max Griffin's caliber. I mean, this seems like the prototypical opponent for him to do the clinch heavy game plan against. A guy with heavy hands, but you outsize him. You're stronger than him, at least in terms of your grasp. It seemed like a tailor-made matchup for that. And once that did happen in the later rounds, that was when Griffin would didn't seem to give a lot of fight back, whether to preserve some energy or whatnot. Neil had a lot of success. I just walked away going, okay, maybe age is starting to catch up to Neil Magny just a little bit. He's still got a lot left, But I definitely
Something to
think
keep an eye on.
it was something that was just the first time where I kind of went, okay, we're not necessarily seeing the best of Neil Magny anymore. And maybe
Yeah,
for others it was the Michael Chiesa fight, but like for me it was here where I was like, okay, maybe he is like just taking, maybe it's a slight step, but it's a step backwards.
yeah, I like it.
On the prelims, and hey, we gotta talk about how really the prelims were a bit hard for us to kind of like keep our full
Yes.
interest in or our full eyes on because we were at that hospitality event where we were meeting the heavyweight goat,
Yeah.
Cody Garbrandt, AJ Dobson. So because of that, we kind of had to watch it on TV. We were trying, I mean, but it made some fights a little hit or miss.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
was one of them. I went back and watched it afterwards. I'm not sure did you go back
Yeah, I
and
saw.
watch it?
Yep. Yeah.
So Chris Gutierrez, a guy me and Dominic, we've bet on him, so we
Mm-hmm.
cashed big on this one. He was an underdog here. TKO's Donna Badgerel. Donna was a guy who had 3 straight first round finishes that a lot of people were kind of slowly starting to build up here. But Gutierrez, a tough guy, gets
Yes.
a TKO in round 2, and with, I mean, a great,
Mhm.
great highlight reel finish. Dominic, it didn't come easy, but he got the win nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean that's Gutierrez, right? That's how he does it. He's so durable, man, and to be willing to be in there and stand and bang with Donna is ballsy. But it paid off for him. That right hand, that ooh, it was so nice and crisp. He got the performance bonus as a result of it. Gutierrez, he's going to be in fights like this. He's going to be in scraps. He's durable. He's tough, but he's still relatively young. And I'd like to see kind of what could come next for him to get a big win like this against a guy that's been starching people 3-0 in the UFC with some momentum, and he halts that. What can we kind of see here from Gutierrez next? That's what I'm intrigued by.
Yeah, I really am because I didn't see him getting a finish here. I thought Donna was just
No.
I thought Donna was the one with the heavy hands, and Gutierrez was gonna have to use that grit, that durability, that the fact that he can go the distance and
Yes.
and fight at a high level. I thought he was really gonna have to dig deep to get this win, but I really thought he was gonna do it. Instead, he went in there and put him out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did it in highlight reel fashion. Got that 50K bonus from it. This was a big night for Gutierrez, and again, I don't know what's next because probably, he's still probably a ways away from
Yeah.
top 15 or
Yeah.
whatever, but definitely some guy that you're going to keep an eye on moving forward. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Finally, Mano Fidoro gets the unanimous decision win over Jennifer Maia. The scorecards would tell you that this was one-sided, 30-27 across the board. But Dominic, Jennifer Maia did give her something here. This was a competitive bout.
Yes, it was.
Mano won every round, and deservedly so, and showed that she is a problem in this division. But when I'll just be frank with you, when I got done with this fight, my immediate thought was to be disappointed in Mano's performance, only because I guess I have maybe underestimated Jennifer Maia.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like Jennifer Maia, despite the fact that, yes, she's ranked number 4 in the division, she's fought for the title, I don't consider her of that caliber, even though she's technically done it.
Yeah.
And especially if a fight were to be fought on the feet for the entirety, I thought Mano would just kind of piece her up. I thought she was that much better.
Mm-hmm.
But Jennifer Maia had a lot of moments here, was very competitive, held in there. She was always a step behind, but never out of the fight. And I think maybe now that I've kind of had some time to digest it, I'm not necessarily disappointed in Mano's performance. I just think Jennifer Maia might have just been more game than I realized. But I still can't help. But, I thought with a win here, Mano, if she did it in a certain fashion, I might have been ready to go, okay, she gets the winner of Valentina de los Santos.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. But now I'm not quite sure I can say that, Dominic. I don't think I can. I would. What I really would have loved to have seen next was her versus Andrade. However,
Yes.
Andrade
Yeah.
is going to fight Amanda Lemos.
I know.
Or Lemos. So maybe she gets the loser of that title fight, especially if Taylor Santos were to lose. But then again, the UFC, if Taylor Santos gets smashed by Valentina, why would you put her up against Mano Fiorot? Because then if she beats Mano, you're not going to run that fight back a second time. So why risk losing another contender?
Yeah.
So technically, Manu might be in the driver's seat. She might not even have to fight again to get a title shot. But I think that would be doing her a disservice at this point if they did that.
She needs one more. She does need one more. What I thought was interesting, though, and I think it is more of a credit to Maya. I think she's just tough. She's gritty. She's going to bring the fight. She likes being in, scrappy fights. But Manu grappled and showed us some wrestling, and I did not expect that from someone that's known to be so good on the feet and with that karate, style. So that was interesting, especially to do it against Maya. But she needs one more. It was a huge win, and I'm looking at the rankings and I'm like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? Because now even Katlyn Chookagian is fighting Ribas, or else I would have said that should be next, because that's actually a fun, interesting fight. There's two people. There's Viviane Araujo, who's number 6, relatively still promising in this division in terms of getting to a title fight, or there's Lauren Murphy. Neither one are great, but if we're saying she needs one more, I think a win over either one, then we can say, all right, you're 5-0 in the UFC, here's your title fight.
Well, out of those two, you probably do Araujo because Lauren Murphy's fighting Miesha Tate, right?
Thank you. There you go. We already cleared it then, because literally every one of these women above Araujo are booked. So
can I throw you an out of the box?
Of course.
Option? Just because I saw this as well, and I was like, yeah, I guess you could do Viviane, but I don't know. I'm just kind of like, what's a fun fight? What's a fight I would want to see? Dominic, we're still waiting to hear when's Tatiana Suarez coming back, and when she does, put her up against Mano Fiorot. Tell me that wouldn't be a banger of a fight. Yes, I know. What a long layoff it's been for Tatiana. Does she need time to kind of recoup, get her feet wet, get right back in there? Does she need a bit of a tune-up in some ways? But I say fuck that. I think Tatiana Suarez is one of the best in the world. She wants to prove it in a new weight class at 125 pounds. I say you go right ahead and put her in that top 5 range. Mano Fiorot versus Tatiana Suarez. Give me it.
Oh, Noah. You struck a chord right there. If you're bringing up Tatiana Suarez to me on this show with a potential fight, I'm signing off.
And honestly, Dom, tell me we would not be so stoked for that to be a title eliminator.
Noah, do you know how badly I want to see Tatiana back in the cage? So badly.
And just the matchup. Mano Fiorot, a great striker who's showing improving defense. Tatiana Suarez, the female Habib. Oh. I mean, that's a matchup that's a really underrated matchup. Honestly, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. I am. I'm going to dig in here and say that is the best fight I've ever booked on this show that is not actually booked, but that I just booked myself.
I love it. Do it. Dana, the boys. Here we are.
Dana, you can have this one on me. All right. Next time it might cost you though.
Yeah. Howlerhead.
Yeah. Yeah, you can pay me in Howlerhead whiskey.
Yeah.
Even though Dana, actually, you owe me because I'm disappointed that you were not at UFC Columbus. Instead, he was hanging out with Kid Rock and the Nelk Boys in Nashville. he was having a Howlerhead signing in Nashville.
Hey.
Okay.
Yeah, we're cool too.
Anyways,
we're done.
That is the end. You guys don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. The UFC or MMA Weekend Recap. Again, no preview for this Friday because there's no major MMA events yet.
We're getting a break. It's been a grind, huh?
Yeah, we have been grinding for a while, man. It's kind of a welcome, just a little, week off. I was surprised, once again, when the UFC takes a week off, why does it seem everybody else just does too?
Yes, dude. That's their time to shine. Now, what are
Bellator,
you doing?
why are you not having an event? Yeah. Why is there no LFA or Cage Warriors or... why isn't the PFL starting
their season? Yes, I don't know.
I know there's.
Why aren't we running these companies? I'm just kidding.
We have business degrees. We can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it is welcomed to just kind of we'll put out the vlog, which is still takes
Yeah.
work, of course. So be sure to check that out. You know, give us some feedback. We'd love to do a vlog like that in the future. We'd love to do.
Oh, I had
you
a
know,
blast doing
Dominic, especially out of the two of us, he's definitely been the guy that has been more interested in kind of trying some of this content, new content that doesn't fit in what we've been doing up to this point. You know,
Right.
We have this podcast, we have a betting show, we have clips for the podcast. But you know, for me, I feel like my focus has been just trying to find ways to improve those. And I love that your focus has been like not that you're not doing that, but that you also have an eye on what's some other things we can do that's outside the box, that's a little different to try to expand our reach a little bit. And a vlog, you know, that's top. People love vlogs, right?
Yeah, I love vlogs.
Yeah, so make sure to check it out. Let us know what you think. And after that, we'll be back, I guess, the following Friday, or Thursday, excuse me. So the following Thursday will be the preview for the weekend. UFC 273. I'm sure there's more than that. I think Bellator has an event that
I think they're
weekend.
back.
I'll have to look. I usually, at the start of the month, I usually map out kind of what events are happening. So I'm a little hazy right now because we're in the middle, you know, in between.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be back then. So until then, guys, you know, stay safe out there.
Of course.
Have a good couple weeks. Have a good week off. Go out and get some sunshine. Hopefully, it'll be nice weather for that weekend. But Dominic, send us out of here.
You can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, at DCLE14. More importantly, go follow, go engage, go interact with the podcast on Twitter, on Instagram, at BAJMMA. Blah. I fucked it up. At BAJ_MMA podcast. We posted some photos from our weekend with our friends and whatnot with the fighters. Go show that some love. And again, Friday, be ready. We'll kind of promote it throughout the week, but the vlog's coming out. Hope you guys enjoy it. Noah, let's get out of here.
Yeah, my mom and sister are yelling out there. I'm glad they decide to yell when they talk. But you guys know where to find me, right? It's at ntbaker_ on Twitter, Instagram. You know, the bio, the link tree, list of links. The Gooba. The Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcast. It's all on there, all right? There's also a couple links for today's sponsor, Anchor. Shout out. They are the anchor that holds us in place.
Ooh, new tagline.
Yeah, so there's a couple Guga Gavas on there. First, if you want to leave a voice message and tell us to Gooba Gaba ourselves, then you can do that there.
Oh, boy.
Secondly, if you would like to give us some money, if you'd like to donate to the show, you can do it there as well. All that money, I promise you guys, it goes right back to the podcast. We will not go spend it at a strip club or on bets for our MMA show. I promise. You can trust me. Look at me. I'm just a guy, right?
That's true. You're a trustworthy guy.
But that's it. We're out. We'll see you guys on the vlog.
Oh, yeah.